Well, welcome again. This is Steve Moreland with the Success Publishing Podcast. And every time we get a chance to interview a new author, it's our honor and privilege. And today I have Amanda Meyer here to talk about the launch of her book, but really something that's even, in my opinion, a greater, bigger purpose. And I'm going to let her go through that. We're going to kind of unbox this and talk to Amanda. So first of all, Amanda, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Good. Well, thank you for being here. And I know you're super busy. I know you're like me, trying to always organize and stay things together. So I'm really happy. I want to get into talking about your book. But first of all, I want to give you a chance just to kind of introduce yourself, kind of a little bit about your background, and where you're at here in life. And then we'll kind of jump in and talk about the book. So it's all yours. Tell us where you're at on the globe so people can kind of get an idea from there and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I live in the U.S. We're located in South Carolina in the upstate. Okay. My husband, Terry, and I are the Brady Bunch. We've got 5 kids between the two of us. So I'm a little bit of a super mom and a bonus mom. We're a military family as well. I'm a former 2nd grade teacher, and I stay busy just with everything I've just discussed, as well as a little bit of entrepreneurship on the side.
There you go. Okay, so and you mentioned that teaching in your past, kind of like it was a tour of duty, and you're retired from it. So how was it?
It was like a tour of duty.
Okay.
Yeah, I always felt like I was meant to be an educator, just not inside the classroom setting, is what I realized over the years.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and so how has that segued now? Well, first of all, somewhere around there, I know you're going to have a copy of your book. So let's show off your book. There it is. Look at that. And I want to get into talking about what it felt like to hold the book in your hand for the first time. But I know this is all kind of part and parcel of the process. Like you said, you've always been an educator. It's been something, it's what you have your degree in. And you move through, teaching kids, but you have a bigger purpose, what I would call not just a goal. To me, as I read your press release and I've read your chapter and all that, there is a bigger thing inside of you that is just so much bigger than you. So tell me what that is and why is it that you want to help educate the world?
It's so much bigger than all of us, and it's very humbling. I lost my 16-year-old son to suicide back in May of 2019, and actually Friday is his 2-year mark. And I didn't notice all the dots connecting in my life until I've looked back. Sure. So that's why I've mentioned in my book that wherever you find yourself, all the good, the bad, and the ugly took place to get you where you are. A lot of people end up living with regret. Mm-hmm. I don't. I mean, there's a lot of things we think we would change about our past. But if you do that, then it's got that butterfly effect, and then you're not going to be exactly where you're supposed to be.
So I'll have to ask you that what you just mentioned there is a combination of hope and a lot of faith, because the whole idea people dream about, if I had a magic wand or if I could step into a time machine, I would go back to some event in my life and I would change it. And you understand the butterfly effect, that when you do that, there's all kinds of unexpected ripple effects that would happen in time, theoretically. And you have come to a place of peace that you trust. There is a faith in you that says where I am right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Where does that come from?
I've always been the type of person that said, and I know we're not supposed to say always, but as long as I can remember, that everything happens for a reason. And a lot of people throw that saying around until something traumatic happens to them. Sure. And then they question it. And you have the right to question it. You're supposed to question it. Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm trying to say is life and death have a design, and we're not meant to figure it out. And I experienced that back about 5 years ago when we lost one of our best friends in a horrific car accident. Mm-hmm. He was actually in a motorcycle. He was driving on the highway, and a car was driving in the opposite direction. And a front tire popped off of this car, flew over the median on the highway, and struck him right on his bike. He wasn't drinking. He was in protective gear. And my husband, being the engineer that he is, and he works at GE, so all the other engineers were there because that's where his friend Tom worked. crunched some numbers and they said 60 miles one way, 60 miles another way, 40 feet is a split second. So when that took place in our life, not only did it knock the wind out of me, but it made me truly believe that, gosh, that's like not even a whole second, like a split second.
Yeah.
And I really felt like, even though his death really kind of shook us to the core, it was so profound on how something like that could have happened to anyone in any of the cars and trucks on the highway, but the fact that he was on a bike. So I say all that because fast forwarding 3 years later, losing Logan, I can sit here and go, well, everything happens for a reason, but that's where you really start to question.
Sure.
The hope and faith thing is so intertwined, because I did question my faith when that happened. And I don't really have much of a choice other than to believe that life and death truly have a design. Otherwise, I won't be able to make sense out of it.
And so when your message that you're going to be reaching people through television, through radio, podcasts, from platforms, you've already been doing that. I saw somewhere along the way that you were invited. I think someone found you on Instagram, I think somehow, and you were invited to be a guest speaker. And I was so excited for you and so proud that you did that. And I know more of these things are opening up for you. But when those individuals, you have to think forward, when someone calls in through a television or a podcast or a radio and says, but I'm here right now, Amanda. I understand that you are now the expert. You already navigated through this impossible maze. What is that process that you would help that other individual that is in the midst of their hell and they feel like they can't go forward anymore?
We truly have two options. It is very black and white. There is no gray area. You can choose to go into a rabbit hole and wither away and die and just do nothing. And that is justified depending on your situation.
Sure.
Or you can turn tragedy into triumph and do something to bring some light to whatever darkness is going on in your life.
Wow.
I have my daughter and I've got my bonus children and a husband, and again, that ripple effect when suicide or really any traumatic event happens in someone's life, especially a suicide, it does have a ripple effect.
Sure.
And it can have a very profound positive effect, and it can also have a very negative effect. It's like tipping a domino. So I'm not really sure if I'm answering your question, but for me, I would want people to see that something like losing a child that takes most people out of the game can really fuel your fire to bless it forward. So, and to educate others and let them know that it's okay not to be okay, and start talking about the stigmas and the sensitive topic of mental health, to give them some sort of glimpse of hope or faith that everything is going to be okay. And you're going to be able to breathe again easily one day.
And that you use that 4-letter word again, hope. And that is the thing that when tragedy strikes our lives and the certain world that we believed in all of a sudden becomes uncertain in a moment, in a split second. And then it's that, how do I go from this point? In my life, I've had not the same tragedy that you have, a different type of tragedy, an unexpected, an unjust, an unfair. And I know what that feeling feels like when, you feel like you're talking to the creator directly because you don't care about talking to anybody else. And there's that righteous anger, why are you testing me? Why did you need to bring this into my life? Those kind of questions.
Someone once told me, and it was a mentor, that said, there's no testimony without the test. You haven't been picked on, you've been picked. And I remember walking up to him one time at a convention and I said, you know what? I don't want to be picked. I want to be put right back on that shelf. And we don't have that choice of the matter. So one of my favorite quotes is that, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. We all have choices in life on how we react to certain situations. Am I justified to crawl into that hole? Absolutely. Do I also have the decision making on how long I want to be in that hole? Absolutely. We can all throw that pity party, but it's up to you for how long you want to sit there for.
Your attitude and your perspective is amazing. In fact, that's an understatement. I appreciate who you are. And I know that as you tell your story and you pay it forward, your choice
Mm.
of not staying in that rabbit hole, that you are justified.
Right.
You have determined that you're going to set the standard for not just your daughter, your family, but all those individuals that you have yet to meet that are waiting to meet you.
Thanks. There's a flip side of that too, by the way, and thank you.
Mhm.
So I'm a very transparent person, and I feel that's the only way to be forthcoming. And it's incredible how many stories come out of the woodwork the more transparent you are about your own story, because people want to talk and share their story, and everybody's got such a powerful story within them. So I love that we highlight my success, and I love that Success Publishing has done that for me in the sense of being a #1 best-selling author, and I just won a fitness competition or my pro card, and I've got all these wonderful things going for me. But the flip side of that is I've also been very vulnerable and have shown what a hot mess I can be, and not a negative light. I just want people to see that not everything is always great going on in my life, that I'm being told all the time. I just had this conversation with my husband the other day about what a strong person I am.
Mm.
And in the sake of vulnerability and transparency, when I look in the mirror, I see someone very sad and tired.
Mm.
I have a very difficult time seeing what other people see in me. And as much as I love the validation,
Mhm.
it's that's my journey right now. I'm working on staying grounded and humble, but seeing myself in a prettier light
Mhm.
that others see me in, that I still haven't seen yet.
Well, and I, like you said, I appreciate your courage to talk about what everyone else would try to dodge. Okay. Because, it's one of our things as human beings. We want to be accepted. And how do we become accepted? We tend to embellish a little bit, you
Or
know?
say a few things that people want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. It's part of, I love the therapist, Virginia Satir, that kind of rebuffed Maslow's hierarchy of needs. She said, no, the most important thing is not safety and security. It's us humans will do anything for acceptance.
Right.
And so I appreciate, you, like you said, talking about the fact that there are times when you're a hot mess. And that's real because that's what humans are. We are not these mannequins that we pretend to be at a cocktail party. And so you being able to be you, I think is so empowering to all individuals, whether they've gone through a horrific tragedy or one is down the road, because I do believe what you just said. There's no testimony unless there's a test.
Mhm.
And for whatever our creator is, um, he appears in my mind, in my rationalization, that he's looking for a few good humans.
Right.
And the only way I'm going to call him he, maybe she, or I don't know what to refer. If it's not a he or she, whoever the creator is unfathomable. Let's just end there. Okay. That whatever this testing ground we are caught inside of called life, I appreciate the fact that even though you are so grounded and so authentic isn't even deep enough, you are so humble with being able to say, I don't see what other people see, but I'm going to keep working on me. I'm going to keep improving because I just refuse to give up. I love that. It's ultimate grit. That is exactly what you just defined.
I
So
appreciate
tell me from here, okay? You're published now. You became a #1 bestseller.
it.
What does the future, what do you want to do? What changes do you want to make in the world as this amazing lady that's full of grit?
I don't want to just be one thing. I mean, like I said, I'm a mom, I'm a military spouse, I'm a former educator, I'm a fitness competitor and an author, and I don't want to categorize myself as one thing. So when people ask me, what do you do for a living? I don't really know how to, that's such a loaded question. I'm like, I don't know how to answer that question.
Sure.
Do you want the short version or the
Right. How long do you have?
version? Right. And as I've evolved, as my story has unfolded, and as I have delved into personal growth and development, my true calling through life has been to be an educator.
Mhm.
And I can really do that in so many different categories. A lot of people look up to me with credibility for on the fitness aspect. A lot of people come to me on a mental health aspect, even though I'm not a certified trainer on the topic,
Sure.
just being the expert of living through it. And I really love the idea of being able to bless it forward and educate others in any realm that I have my expertise in, whether it's on a mental health aspect or just, I guess, life coach, if you want to sum it up,
Sure.
So
I love that.
goes into education for the money,
No, but I
it's
mean,
more fun. Yeah, it's more fun to cry in a Bentley than is a Toyota. So money helps, but
yeah, okay, I can see that.
I've driven both.
Uh-huh.
I'm not money motivated. My motivation is truly making an impact in the world and leaving my mark on someone in a positive way. And I've had a lot of negativity my way as far as I was in a very toxic environment when it came to the teaching world. I loved the teaching, but unfortunately it was 90% politics
Yeah.
and paperwork and data and
Sure.
and yeah, I won't even go into that whole rabbit hole.
All right.
And so when I started kind of diving into the personal growth and development 5 years ago, I realized that I can still be that educator and just not be in the classroom setting.
There
So
you go. Yeah, not have to put up with all of the BS because I know it as well. The reason why I left corporate America, I loved my clients. I couldn't stand the politics. So you've got so much amazing insights, and most importantly, I appreciate your attitude, your demeanor, and ultimately what is effervescent about you that just kind of bubbles forward is that you care so much in making a difference. Thank you.
I do. Thank you.
You did awesome. I am really glad to have had time to do this podcast interview with you, and I hope many other people get a chance to connect with you and maybe watch this. Certainly get your book. I'll put in the description below how they can find you on Amazon. And you're amazing. Thank you for being part of. Thank you. I always say that there's no such thing as accidents, kind of like what you're talking about here, and I think this was the right timing for you to become published so that you have a chance to share your amazing story and how you respond to life. That's what you do.
Well, thanks to you and Success Publishing for the opportunity to become an author. It really wasn't something on my what I like to call life list item. It just kind of evolved into, I've played around with the idea a little bit, but it wasn't anything I was really wanting to check off. And because of having that opportunity to share my story and my life experience really has opened up so many doors for me in the sense of being able to touch so many different lives. And you mentioned about being a keynote speaker at the end of this year. I was standing in a group of friends over New Year's Eve in Tampa. And there was a gentleman that wasn't even really part of our group. He met somebody through our group and we connected on social media, and that's where he found me on Instagram. And he goes, so you're a speaker? And I said, on a smaller scale. He goes, would you ever consider, coming to Michigan and kind of being a keynote speaker for us? I go, I'm open to it. And it was like 4 months later, he sends me this message and he says, are you still open to having that conversation? I said, I'm always open to having conversations. And it turns out it's the MISHRM. So it's Michigan Society of Human Resource Management. It's the largest human resource management conference in this whole state of Michigan.
Wow.
And I'm not just the keynote speaker, I'm the closing keynote speaker. And had I not written the book and had it on Instagram and built up somewhat of some credibility,
Sure.
I don't think I would have been able to have that ripple effect to do that talk. And when I get to that place in October, I can't even fathom the impact I'll be able to have in that room, even if it's one person.
Yes, absolutely.
It just takes that one domino to tip over the rest. So that's how it's all really kind of flourished and evolved since writing the book. So when you said thank you, I really owe the thanks to you guys, because so many things have opened up in that aspect.
Outstanding. Well, we will catch up with you, and I know you'll let us know all the details when you get a chance to change so many people's lives. And thank you for taking time with us today.
Thank you again.